Hello, 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 everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you guys. Anyone who wants to get up and be a speaker, this is a great time for you to request to speak, and I can approve it right now. All right, key players, like and retweet the room so we can get more people in here and really get some good skills down so we can improve our lives in a lot of different ways. All right, Mazda, I'm going to invite you to speak if you're up for it. Houdini, you always make great comments. If you also want to speak, you're welcome. Awesome, awesome. All right, so quick recap on me. I have a background in clinical behavioral psychology, master's, and my main focus is psychology and relationships. So how can we empower you guys to be relationship experts? So I'm going to try and pass as much information as I can. At any point in time, same rules apply. If you want to speak, just put your hand up or just take yourself off mute. This is a free space to share anything you want or ask any questions. Anything I can do to add as much value to you guys as I can, happy to do that. So let's recap some of the skills we've learned because we're going to be directly applying them to the Reddit questions that we have. So the first skill that we talked about was love languages. And the main takeaway from that one is that people appreciate different things. No two people are identical, and we usually give people the love that we want to receive. So it's very counterintuitive for our brains to realize that the other person usually receives love differently and wants it a different way. So we have to be very aware of what the other person wants to feel loved and do that for them. And sometimes it's super easy and sometimes it is hard, depending on what you guys appreciate and how different you are. The second skill we learned is bottling is bad. And the answer is to be honest. So whenever we're feeling frustrated, even if it's for a reason that doesn't make sense to us, we're like, this is just silly. I shouldn't even be upset about this. No, don't ignore those things because they pile up and and you can easily feel distant towards your partner or get more anxious, or just a recipe for disaster. So if you notice something's frustrating you, don't bottle it up. Be honest if you don't know how to express yourself. The next skill we learned was having a soft startup. So once you know you're frustrated, how do you communicate that? And to have better results, having a soft startup is definitely something that's going to get you better results. So if you start off with asking, what time is a good time to speak to them and not catching them in the middle of them being out of the door or, being super hungry, there's probably not great times to bring up something important. But, making sure it's a good time and then starting off with, as loving as you can and I feel, and then, whatever emotion it is you're feeling is fine. And then, making sure your tone is, moderate, because for some people, as soon as your tone goes up, they stop listening and they get defensive. So there's a bunch of things we can do to soften our startup. A good start is not yelling. Usually that's people's default. They start to yell when they're upset. The next thing we learned is to be direct. So we live in a society where we're really encouraged and trained to speak indirectly for what we want. So the classic textbook example for this one is when you're upset that the laundry is not done yet, you will say, the laundry pile is high, instead of saying, can you please do the laundry by the end of the day? Which is a very clear, direct ask, and it gives your partner now the option to be able to say yes or no and give them a choice and give them a chance to explain. And then you don't come across demanding because you're giving a very direct ask, and then they have the option to be able to communicate what they can and can't do. So being direct is always better than being indirect. Then the next skill we learned was nurturing vulnerability. And this came up in our men's mental health session that we had. It's hard for men to be vulnerable, usually also for women sometimes. But, if they are going to be vulnerable, we really should nurture that. And, if it's something that's going to make you laugh or I don't know what, react badly or make fun of them, like we should really be aware not to do that, because if we don't nurture vulnerability, they're less likely to open up, even more closed up than before. And that's the exact opposite of what we want. So if you please be aware when someone's being vulnerable, and definitely nurture that and make them feel safe so they can, continue on that right track of being more vulnerable in the future, which is what we need. We need that honest transparency and communication to be able to have the best relationships. And then the next one was practicing validation. So when someone is vulnerable, sometimes you may not agree with what they're saying, or it might come out as an attack towards you because they're upset about something. How do you even respond to that? And my favorite response to something in most situations that we can use is "I hear you." So you don't have to agree with them to say that. And it's a quick response you can say to just about anyone who says something to you. And then you can just bounce off from there and keep going. So "I hear you" is a really good one to help people feel heard and validated. The next skill was attuning. So attuning was noticing the little moments of life that you turn towards your partner instead of turning away. And it's so important. And what psychologists actually measure to see which relationships are going to last and which ones are going to end in divorce, this is the thing that they look at. So really, like, small moments in a relationship, if one partner says something, does the other partner respond to them, or just not say anything in response? There's just so many little moments that we're very it's the key moments that we can tell which relationships are really in sync with each other and turning towards each other instead of away. And the last one we did last week was avoiding toxicity. So being aware of when things are going wrong and correcting them quickly. And usually, a big part of toxicity is when people's words don't match their actions. So if you notice that, it's good to call it out, because we want everything to be aligned so then we have healthy relationships. And the classic term in psychology for that is cognitive dissonance. And that one specifically is when your beliefs and your actions don't line up. And that can cause a lot of, mental strain on yourself, because you want to be a certain way, you want to live a certain life, and when your actions don't match up, you can be very self-critical, and just it can spiral. So just catching that and just matching your words to your actions as much as you can really helps. And sometimes that means not making not giving your word for like giving it less. Like, it's okay to give your word less to things, or say, hey, I can only do this, but at least it will match your actions. So making small commitments and matching them is a great start to aligning your words and your beliefs with your actions. So that was all the 10 weeks leading up to now. So this week, our topic is how to resolve conflict. And this is a really good tool I'm going to teach you guys on how to attack something as hard and scary as resolving conflict, because conflict is hard for just about all of us, and no one likes it, and most people avoid it. So the art of learning how to resolve conflict is so important. I just wanted to give the floor to anyone in the room at this point that wanted to ask any questions about anything we've said so far, or something that they wanted to ask, or share a story of any kind, just so there is an opportunity in case anyone wants to do that. And if you do at any point, just put your hand up or request to speak or unmute yourself. That's totally okay. That's what we're here for. Okay.
I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm here for awesome stories about love, and then the reactions people have for them. I find it really interesting. So yeah, let's
Amazing.
get at it.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Okay, so the skill we're learning today is how to resolve conflict. And the main one I'm going to teach you today is to make sure you figure out who was upset first. Now, this is a really good way to be able to solve a problem before two people get upset. And sometimes it's hazy who got upset first in a situation. But so the key I want us to focus on the stories that we're going to read from Reddit is who got upset first. And the reason this is important to be aware of is because if one person's upset and I come to you and I'm like, I'm upset about this, if you come back at me and say, well, I'm upset about this, now we've got two people that are mad. And when two people are mad and they're just going at each other, we're just not in the right mental state to figure it out. And it can so easily not get resolved, and you just get mad at each other, and then you're like, why was I even mad at you, and how did we get here, and all these things. So if one person's upset, we want to resolve that first before we get to another problem. We're not saying we're going to not address the other problem. We're just going to take turns, so then the person that's upset, they can be okay, and then the next person that's upset can now be the vulnerable one, and the other person can now take the strong role and support them in trying to solve it. So this is a helpful tool for us to use to notice who's upset first. Okay, let's put this to practice. Okay, and just a little caveat here. So if someone is always getting upset first, that is a problem as well, because then it's a bit abusing their power, or they're playing the victim a lot, which if that's something that you're experiencing, that's we have to tackle it in a slightly different way. But yeah, start being aware who's upset first, and is it happening within a reasonable balance between the two. So ideally we want a reasonable balance. All right, let's jump into Reddit stories, which we love. So 35-year-old female, 35-year-old male, so same age. So my husband chose to go to see Taylor Swift with his sister on our 4-year wedding anniversary. Okay, so that's the top line. That's the top line story. Now let's get into some details. So, as the title says, my husband spent our 4-year wedding anniversary on a trip with his sister to see Taylor Swift. He did not break this news to me that he would be doing this until 5 days before our actual anniversary. I told him that hurts my feelings tremendously, but every time it is brought up, he tells me that anniversaries can be celebrated anytime. It doesn't have to be on the day of. So I sat at home alone and sad while he while he partied with his sister on the day of our anniversary. I feel like he is discounting my feelings by telling me that it was no big deal and that we can celebrate our anniversary on another day. I have been feeling upset about this for weeks. And as a outsider looking in, what is your opinion on this? Do you think that what he did was lousy, or am I being too sensitive? I want to add that I do know 1,000% for a fact this trip was taken with his sister. So for those wondering, is his sister actually some other woman? It's not. I will also add that he did make up for it by taking me on a trip to the Smoky Mountains. Okay, so I want to ask people, first of all, thumbs up if you think she's being too sensitive. So if you click the little love heart icon, you can see a bunch of reactions, and one of them is a love heart. Is she being too sensitive? Thumbs up or thumbs down? We've got a thumbs down. We've got a shock face. We've got multiple shock faces.
I'm not sure. I don't think she is, but I don't know the backstory with Dude Bro, and is he like a big Swiftie, and so is his sister, or what's that about?
It sounds like they definitely are. Like they seem very committed to this Taylor Swift thing. So with this one, so I appreciate the different opinions on if this is too sensitive or not. And the thing that I want to highlight with the sensitivity thing is that she's not too sensitive. And, we can get very caught up in what is right or what is wrong. And so, one of the things that whenever you're feeling upset about something, you're allowed to feel upset about something. And because if you're frustrated for whatever reason, it's something that you want to be able to address and not have it pile up anymore. And usually by speaking about it, the frustration can go away, depending on a lot of different factors. It opens up to being solved. But usually if you keep it in, so in the story, she has kept this in for weeks. So yes, about feeling upset about this for weeks, plural. So she's bottled it in for a while now. It's a lot.
Then I think she's, well, I don't, I'm sorry, I'm
Yeah.
speaking over. And then I think she's being too sensitive for herself. Like she's putting too much pressure on
Yeah.
this anniversary date thing, maybe. I don't know,
Yeah.
but maybe.
Yeah, yeah. And, you know, it might not make sense to other people for sure because they're like, you know, who cares about the date? I took you to the Smoky Mountains. It was amazing. Like, it doesn't matter if it was this day or the other day. Like, it still happened. Absolutely. But again, so this comes down to love languages. So for the husband, the day doesn't matter, but for the wife, the day does matter. Or, you know, she needed some sort of more notice or something to feel okay about this. So it's okay that both, like, you know, one thinks it's okay and one thinks it's not. So definitely own it whenever you feel upset about something. And it doesn't mean that the other person has to agree with it. It just means that they have to care about your feelings being upset to be able to avoid that happening in the future. So if we're applying this first upset rule, is the wife upset first or is the husband upset first? Who wants to take a guess?
She's upset first, right? But she
Amazing.
didn't say it. Yeah.
Yes, but she's definitely upset first because he told her 5 days before he's going to go to Taylor Swift without a care in the world. He thought everything was fine because according to how he understands life, the day doesn't matter to him. And it's you know what you do together which counts. So he had no idea. And then she got
I
upset.
don't. To add a caveat, I've said
Yeah.
that kind of thing before. The day doesn't matter, and
Yeah.
like it's kind of like an excuse. It's a cop out when you say it, but it's true. But it's still like a little weak.
Exactly. Exactly. So it's definitely understandable if someone wants to have a special day on the day. But there's definitely, you know, room to be flexible as long as it's handled the correct way. All right. So I want to ask if someone feels brave enough to implement the first upset rule if we were to tackle this as a conflict. And if no one puts their hand up, I'll ask my husband to do it with me. Anyone want to role play with me what a first upset rule would look like?
I don't know what this is gonna do, but I'll go for it. I'm the other speaker up here, so sure.
Amazing. Amazing. Okay. So let's say I am the wife that's upset, and I've noticed that. So you tell me 5 days before the anniversary that you're going to go to Taylor Swift. I have the awareness that I just became upset when I heard this news, and I am going to have a chat with you about it. So I'm going to say, hey, is this a good time to speak with you about something that's important to me?
Yeah, yeah. Is it quick? Yeah, if it's quick, let's do it.
Okay, awesome, awesome. So you just told me that, you know, on our anniversary, you're going to be going to Taylor Swift with 5 days notice. And I felt really upset when I heard that because the day does matter to me. Um, you know, like in the future, maybe like, you know, if I had more notice, that would be okay. Or like, do you know when you would be comfortable to celebrate our wedding anniversary? Like, do you have any plans for that?
Yeah, yeah. So I got real excited about the concert because I'm a big Swiftie.
Hmm.
But I thought, I didn't actually realize at the time that it was the anniversary day, and that's my bad. But this was a while ago when I talked to my sister about getting the tickets. Yeah. So the date doesn't matter, but because of our love, and
Hmm.
see now at this point I would hope I'm sidebarring to another personality, but like if
Hmm.
at this point I would hope that I had already planned and considered the Smoky Mountain thing, right? So I would say to
Right.
you, like, I know this is a curveball and I sort of messed up the scheduling, but this is the plan, and can we go to the Smoky Mountains? I know that's a place you like, and we'll get away for a few days, and I hope that makes up for it. But I appreciate that, I messed up the date.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that. I think like I should also be clear in communicating that, you know, for me, if it's within 3 days of our anniversary or within the weekend of when our anniversary is, I'm okay with it being like a few days apart. But the closer it is to the anniversary, the more happy and excited I get. But yeah, the weekend. So hopefully the Smoky Mountain trip is booked for the weekend closest to our wedding anniversary. That would be amazing. And so, yeah.
Yeah, it is now for sure. And I'm just, this is the first time I've thought about it, but I'm thinking about, you're going to be alone on our anniversary and I'm going to be out having fun. So now I feel a little bad. So yes, we're going to make this Smoky Mountain trip really special, and I'll make sure not to let this happen again.
I really appreciate you. Amazing, amazing. So you didn't get defensive when I brought up I was upset. You didn't make it about you with, you could have easily been like you knew I loved, like I'm a huge Taylor Swift fan. I've been waiting for this for like 2 years. You could have easily switched it on me and gotten mad at me for being upset about this. So you could have definitely brought a new conflict to it, which you didn't. So amazing job. And yeah, you were just super nice with understanding where I was feeling and kind of correcting it as soon as possible, and even saying like you will take that into consideration next year. And you felt what I would be feeling on the day of the actual wedding anniversary. So amazing job, amazing job. You did an amazing response to someone who is upset first. Great job, great job. Love
Yeah.
it.
I think it's easier when I don't actually like Swiftie or don't have a sister and those things probably. But yeah, thank you. That was good.
Of course, of course. Don't worry, don't worry. You'll have some different challenges with all different questions depending on what backgrounds we each have with this stuff. All right, let's jump to the next one. So it's a 22-year-old female and a 25-year-old male. So my girlfriend is deeply hurt that I am not ready to move in with her. And the summary for this one was actually a bit of a long story, but I summarized it for you guys. And if we need more detail, I can always go back to it. So they've been together about 7 months. They're both med students in Europe. And with about 3 years to graduate, he lives with one of his best friends. She lives alone and wants to reduce the cost of, her rental place and have him move in. He's not ready because he wants to move in um, with someone when he feels ready to marry them. He doesn't know if it's okay feeling to have or if he's being silly. They've had an argument about this 5 times, and she keeps getting colder every time they have this conversation. He eventually wants to move to the US, and she wants to stay close to her family and not move. He suggested finding her a roommate to help reduce her cost, and she said no because that would affect their privacy, and that's not kind of what she's looking for. So, my first question here is, what is the main issue? From this explanation, who has the awareness to be able to find out what the core issue is here? If a friend came to you with this problem, what is the core issue? Having a quick think.
I missed the beginning part. Well, I got a phone. My phone was ringing. I couldn't hear you.
Oh, good. It was a quick one. So, being together for 3 months. Being together for 7 months. The initial title, was My Girlfriend is Deeply Hurt That I Am Not Ready to Move In With Her. And the beginning was they've been together for 7 months. They're both med students in Europe with 3 years to graduate. He lives with his best friend. She lives alone and wants to reduce the cost of him, cost of her rent and have him move in. He's not ready because he wants to move in with someone he feels ready to marry. He doesn't know if it's an okay feeling to have or if he's being silly. They've had an argument about 5 times. She keeps getting colder. He eventually wants to move to the US. She wants to stay close to her family and not move. He suggested finding her a roommate to help reduce the cost. She wasn't interested in that.
Okay, yeah, I think she's real. Like he's not. He wants to keep cruising. And is he the younger one or her? It was 22 and 25. Is that what you said?
Correct. Female 22, male 25.
Yeah, yeah, he doesn't really he wants to keep living loose a bit, it sounds like. So, and she doesn't. So that's tough. I don't know how to resolve that, but that's the conflict, right?
Interesting, interesting. I'll reveal in a second. My husband's jumped over to say a few words. What have you got?
Uh, it seems like she was hurt first. It's really bad that they've had an argument about this 5 times. It seems like they have some differences in core values. One of them being where they want to move, the other one being what point in their lives they want to move together. It sounds like he wants to move in. He only wants to live with the person that he's going to marry, which is fair. And her bar for moving in with someone is lower. So yeah, it sounds like there are some kind of core value differences here. Seems like the main issue, which I guess is the question, what's the main issue? The main issue, it seems, is like uh, that she wants to live with him, and he only wants to live with the person that he knows he's going to marry. So as far as cost goes, like if cost was really the issue, she could probably find a cheap apartment, you know, or he could just like, like this is not a great solution, but like is like limit test and be like, if I just gave you $1,000, would you be happy? That would reduce the rent. Uh, Whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's my 2 cents.
Yeah, I appreciate that. You're both touching on the right points. So the main issue here, sorry, Houdini, go for it.
Yeah, we just read the guy differently. That's super interesting. But yeah, same conflict. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So the main conflict I see here, so it seems to be, all about moving in. And the main part of what I'm seeing when I hear this immediately is one, for him, he wants to feel like he's going to marry the person that he moves in with or feel confident about that. And it seems like his main barrier to that is that he wants to move to the US and she doesn't want to move. And we don't know if they've had this conversation of, are you willing to move for me or am I willing to stay just to be with you? And it looks like, if I had to assume from the information that's already there, it looks like he would move and break up with her because moving to America is more important to him. And it looks like she would stay to be with her family more than and break up with him than move. And I don't see any compromise in the information that I had read of either of them doing that. It's possible, someone can be flexible and, do long distance and then eventually move across, but there was no indication of that, or maybe they've just avoided this question completely. So that is the crux of their problem. So that they don't seem like they are going to be together in the future. And so that's what's holding this up. So um, if we move on to the next question, which is who got upset first, my husband kind of like jumped to that question already. It's correct. So she was upset first in this situation. And, this hits a core value. So, very naturally, he's going to come up and say, well, I don't feel comfortable about this and I'm upset about this. So it could get a bit blurry here with who got upset first, but it is correct that she got upset first. So they have to address it. So they have to figure out if, do they think that each other is worth it to make it work? Either they both live there or, they both live in the US, or, they do a long distance transition and eventually move in the same place. Or if it's not going to work, should they end things right now? Do they only want to be with people that they're going to have a future with? Or are they both okay with being casual? And if they're being casual, the guy is not comfortable moving in. So she needs to decide if that's acceptable to her, if she knows she doesn't have a future with him and he's not comfortable to move in. Does she want to move ahead with this situation under those circumstances? And does he want to continue the relationship under those circumstances if she's not willing to move? So this goes into that very deep topic of, are they going to continue this under the conditions that they're aware of or not? And just really plainly spell it out. So this is going to be a really tough conversation, and it's just a surface level question, this move-in question. There's much deeper things at play here that will answer their move-in question. So I think, like, you know, if the girl was like, oh my gosh, I actually would love to move to the US, yeah, you just assumed wrong. Like, I'm so glad we talked about this. Yeah, or like, yeah, I have family in the US, I would love to be there. And they realize that they, you know, there is a future where they can be together. Then he may just naturally feel more comfortable to move in with her much sooner or immediately if those things aligned. So that is a very core thing they need to address without getting too defensive and him getting too angry. They need to figure out this core issue. So that one was a bit of a tough one because it hit core values and it hit their blueprint differences. And when I say blueprint, I mean timeline of important things happening. So if I ask anyone when ideally they would want to be exclusive with someone, or when ideally they would want to be engaged or married or have kids, or whatever it's a significant milestone in what they're looking for, everyone can kind of put a rough age range. And what I do with people is I say, you know, if in 10 years you're never in an exclusive relationship, are you comfortable with that? And then we work backwards from 10 years, and usually they're like, hell no, I'm not willing to wait 10 years. And then we work out what their comfortability level is. So that's the blueprint of their ideal timeline of when things happen. So you want to make sure your timelines are as similar as possible and you're both heading in the same direction so your relationship can work. So this moving to a different country on the other side of the world is a big thing in their blueprint that they need to make sure aligns. So then their relationship is also aligned, because if we keep sweeping this under the rug, she's going to keep getting colder and colder, and he's going to get more and more confused. And this is just not a good situation to get. You know, this is going to keep spiraling out of control, and little things are going to become big things. Okay. Any comments, any questions about that one before we move on to the next one?
I think it's important to consider they're both medical students too, and they're both real driven, and they're in the last 3 years, so that's probably residency or something wacky, and they're stressed out and they're trying to figure out what's next. So that's a part of it. But yeah, next story.
Yeah, great point. I didn't even take that into consideration. Absolutely. They're super stressed out. They're probably triggered by a lot of different things. You know, their life is hard to begin with what they do as a living. So absolutely. Very good point to bring up. All right, next question. So 22-year-old male, 21-year-old female. So my girlfriend lied to her family about my race. And the background on this one is I need advice on lying in a relationship. Hello, I am a black man. My girlfriend is a white female. When we met in our freshman year in college and are about to graduate. So we've been together for about 3 years. We're both from the South. I was raised to love everyone regardless of their race. However, most of my girlfriend's family is extremely racist. She kept this from me for the first year into our relationship. I have met her siblings and cousins, and they are not racist at all. It just an older generation in her family. I tried to be patient with this. Recently, her grandfather found out and threatened to disown her. She lied to him, telling him I was mixed, black and white, and that I was raised by my white side of the family. This is a complete lie. I know it's tough for her, but I'm also furious. Okay, so that's the story. So she lied to her family about his race, saying he was mixed and raised by a white family when he was just black and raised by a black family. So who is upset first here? Anyone want to take?
Jeez, I'm upset first.
Yeah,
Wow. Holy
I
cow.
love
He's
that. Yeah.
upset first. He should be
Yeah.
upset first. I hope.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think the grandfather is definitely the first person upset in this situation.
Yeah, maybe.
That's true. That's fair. But in between these two, yeah, it's the guy who's upset first. Absolutely. So if we were to role play this, and I am going to be the man who's upset, does anyone want to role play this with me, or should I get my husband?
I want to hear hubby this time.
Okay. All right, Armand, if you have a spare moment. All right, so you're gonna be the girl, the white girl.
I'm gonna be the white girl.
You're gonna be the white girl. I'm gonna be the upset, frustrated man.
Okay, how belligerent should I be?
You just be what you need to be. I don't know. Okay, so you're trying to. Okay, we're trying to showcase. Wait, I don't know. I don't know.
What are we
Shoot.
trying to showcase?
I want you to do the right thing, but
You want me to do the right thing? Okay.
but I want okay, I want before you do the right thing, I want you to do the wrong thing. So do you know what the wrong thing is?
Oh, I can do some wrong things.
You can do some wrong. Okay, let's practice doing some wrong things. Okay, so um is this a good time to speak to you?
Yeah. Well, what do you want to talk about?
Okay, so I feel really furious that, you told the older generation in your family that I was mixed and raised by a white family when you completely knew that that's not true. I'm fully black and I was, raised in a black family. I'm just really hurt and I need to feel better about this. Like, I need to feel better about this soon.
Babes, I hear you, but they're old and they're racist. Like, you know, we're not gonna like be spending time with them all the time. Like it's fine.
Okay, but I'm like telling you that I am really mad about this and you lied to me about the first year about this and it's just not gone away and I'm really upset and this isn't helping.
I mean, like my grandfather's pretty close to dying. I Does that help?
No, no, I'm still alive and this still happened and I'm just not okay with this.
I mean, it's just like it's gonna, like it's fine. Like what's gonna happen is like it's not a big deal. Like you're overreacting. Like it's gonna be okay. Like yeah, I lied to you, but like talking, you know, I lied to you, but like you've lied to me about a ton of things before. Like people lie.
Okay, let's cut it there because I think that's perfect. So he deflected, which is what I was trying to get him to do. So he switched it on me and said, you've lied a ton of times before and tried to deflect it to different situations that have happened in the past. And we want to stay on topic so we can address it, so we can actually fix this before we address other things. So it's not okay to deflect to other problems before you solve the current one. So it's okay that she's upset if this white girl is upset that I've lied before. We can address that after we address this thing. So okay, let's do it correctly now. Are you ready?
I think so.
Okay. So is this a good time to speak to you?
Yeah, it's a good time. What do you want to talk about?
Okay, so I am furious that you told your older generation of your family that I was raised by the white side of my family and I'm mixed when I'm not, and then you held this for a year for me. I feel really bad about this and can't let it go.
Okay. What would make it right?
Oh well, that was a really good response. I wasn't expecting that. Um, so um, I would just really appreciate if you really had my back with, that older generation that don't get it. Like, the next time we're there, you say that you love me, um, just the way I am, and you wouldn't have me any other way. And if anyone's got a problem with it, that they'll take it out with you and you'll address it with them because it's not okay for anyone to dismiss my background in any way. And you love me no matter what. Is that something you're willing to do?
So just to clarify, I understand you. It seems like you want me to tell them the truth, and that you want me to make a declaration of love for you. How do you? But like as far as the implementation of it goes, like you want me to like invite. Like, are you imagining I invite everyone over for dinner? Before we start eating, I get up and say, "Hey guys, I have something I want to say." You know, this this man, I love him so much, regardless of his race or how he was born or who raised him. Is that what you're imagining?
Yeah, so I appreciate you clarifying this. So I'm actually flexible with how you do it, but I, one, need you to tell them, and I need you to have my back. And I would appreciate if I was able to witness you doing that, because I think I would feel really loved if you did that. But if you wanted to go over both of us privately and you just address it first with your grandfather, which is like the main person, like I'm happy to do it. Like it's mainly your grandfather, honestly, that's really upsetting me, because I know if your grandfather like comes around, like everyone else will come around. So I can be flexible with what you're comfortable with, kind of in the direction that I want. What are you comfortable with?
Before that, one final clarifying question. Is it a requirement that you're there? If you're not there, will you trust that actually did it, or will there always be this nagging feeling?
That's a good question. I think I could trust you, but I think because this has gone on for a year, and like I've just been like I got really angry about this. I think I need to be there. But if you tell me that it's like really hard for you to have me in the same room, I can be okay with it. Or I don't know if you're cool with me just being on the phone with the
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. I'm thinking the best solution may be something along the lines of, uh, you know, sitting down with my grandfather and having a one-on-one talk. I think that's probably the best thing to do. And I can have my phone on record. So, at least record part of the conversation. So, you know, so you feel comfortable knowing that it happened. It seems like, it's not something I really want to do. I feel like I'm kind of spying on my grandfather a little bit, but, I understand that this is something you need because I've lied about this before in order to have trust.
I appreciate you. That means a lot. Thanks for spying on your grandfather for me. With this. Okay, so that's an example of it going down well. So immediately he recognized that it was me that was upset, and he didn't deflect it, and he owned it, and he very quickly asked, "What can I do to make it better?" What an ideal response to be able to resolve something quickly. So great job. We have a requester to speak.
Hmm. So if I was the man, maybe,
Yeah.
and I would be offended, like, by the whole thing, right? Like, not just
Hmm.
upset by the lying, like, offended by the racial thing. Is
Yeah.
it wrong? Is it wrong for the man's brain to want to like go confront the grandfather about it and like, confess the love to the granddaughter and tell him that he's black or whatever, sort of confront him.
Yeah, he could absolutely feel like he wants to do that. And, as soon as he tells his girlfriend that I'm really upset by this, I'm furious, say the thing I really need to do and want to do is to go to your grandfather and just set the record straight. And, if you want her in the room, if you don't want her in the room, say what you want. Exactly say what you ideally want. And then she can try her best to make that happen, or just give you information that will help you, for it to go down smoothly. But yeah, you can definitely ask for what exactly you want to make it better. And you want to see her put in the effort to make it happen. So, yes, that's great that you know what you want. And you need to communicate that for sure. Great, great input. It could be very different to what I want. Each person can want a different thing in this situation to make it better. Maybe someone is like, you know what, I just need a day to just process this information. Can you please give me 24 hours to process this? And, I will probably be less responsive for 24 hours. If some people shut down that way, they can ask for what they need, but they need to figure out what is going to help resolve it. And I love that you had an idea of what would help you feel better in this situation. So, yes, great.
Yeah.
Irma, yeah. Sorry about that. Sorry about that. Irma, did you have, I know you're in a speaker role, did you have anything you wanted to share? Or not yet? That's okay if you have nothing to say yet. All good. All good. Whenever you want to jump in, feel free to unmute yourself. Oh, go for it. Okay, I saw you unmute yourself and then you put it back on mute. So all good. Just whenever you want to speak, feel free to unmute yourself and speak whenever you want. This is a totally free space to share anything or ask anything. That's what we're all about, trying to give people as much value as possible. So next question. So again, real Reddit couple. No sexual intimacy for 2 years. So you can imagine this is something that's probably been brought up multiple times throughout the 2 years. Who is the one upset here, if you had to guess? There's no specific clear answer because there's no backstory on this one. They had already deleted it before I got it. But who wants to take a stab at no sexual intimacy for 2 years? Who's upset first?
I want to venture and say I assume it's the guy who's saying there's been no sexual intimacy for 2 years. But I feel like the girl has been upset for 2 years, maybe more than 2 years. That's my read on this situation. She was definitely upset first, assuming, yeah.
Do we know their ages? No, did you not? We don't know that, right?
We don't know that, unfortunately. They deleted a lot of the information by the time I got there.
I'd say it's 50-50 on the who's wanting the more sex part.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to say whoever wants more sex is the person that's upset in this situation. It's very true what my husband said, that, whatever the girl's upset about something or the guy, we don't know who is the one that's wanting more sex. It could be either person. But that is another. So if someone was saying why I feel, I don't feel loved. Like if the question was, I don't feel loved, it's the person that doesn't feel loved that feels upset first. If someone is upset about not having enough sex, it's the person that is upset about that's upset first. So whoever calls it, and that's why it's so important to speak up when you're upset. If you are just holding this in, then it doesn't get addressed. So if you're upset about not feeling loved or not having sex, you need to speak up. And as soon as you speak up, you are the first person that brought it up. And then the other person has to go into the role of solving it. And it's very easy in this situation where they haven't had sex for 2 years. They're obviously both very upset. This has affected both of them. And as soon as, I bet you, if we put them in a room and we told them to talk about this, and one would say, I'm upset we haven't had sex in 2 years. And the other person would be like, well, I haven't felt loved for 2 years. And they deflect it and they don't really get to the crux of resolving it. So if someone was going to, if they were two people in front of me or I had access to one of them, they came and wanted to know advice on how to tackle something like this, I would try and tell them the first rule thing, and warn them that it's going to be tricky. The other person is going to get defensive very quickly. And so if I would play the other person, to give them an example of what it would look like to steer this conversation in the right direction, to be able to break a 2-year habit that has, just perpetually been exacerbating over time. So one thing to do is, let's say partner says, I feel like just distraught that we haven't had sex for 2 years. And let's say it's my husband that said that and I'm the wife that just heard that. So what I would have to, it's a hard pill to swallow. Nobody wants to hear that. It's really tough. We're already, our heart rates are probably going up. What I need to do is, if I took my husband's previous approach and said, what would make it feel better, if I just said that immediately, and then he said, have sex, and then I could be like, okay, what time frame do you really need it in? Like in a week, in a month? Like how quickly do you need this done from the amount of frustration that you're feeling? Like, is it 24 hours? Like, how much flexibility is there? That's a good starting point. He could be like, we haven't had sex in 2 years. If we have sex in the next month, I'm going to be a happy man. I'll be like, okay, all right. that seems workable for me. For me to feel comfortable enough to have sex with you, you know, I would really appreciate if you did the dishes and took me out on a really romantic date this Friday. Is that something that you can do? And then it's a conversation in the right direction. And if he says, look, we don't have money to be able for me to be able to take you on an expensive date, you know that, then maybe I can say, like, you know, maybe like, can you make my favorite dessert? I love creme brulee. Are you willing to make that for me? And if he says yes, that's great. And, you know, I want to be aware as the side that's hearing the complaint, you know, we haven't had sex for 2 years. I really want to have sex, you know, to drop the bar lower. I need to understand that he's upset about something and I need to try and fix it because he was upset first. At least he communicated first that he was upset, and I need to make it better. And then once I make it better, he can also reciprocate that. And I am going to be the next one that's upset first. And I'm going to be like, look, I don't feel loved enough. And this is what I need. And then he goes into that role of being able to be that person for me and make me happy. So you really need to steer in the direction of what is going to solve the first person's problem in a realistic way, and then if there, you know, if there's much deeper problems, then you address the next problems as it comes. But it does come from, you know, doing good to the person that's upset will do good for you in return, because it's a two-way street. When things are going well, they'll go well in both ways. Anyone have any comments about this? Because sex in a relationship is pretty a big core part of it that can trigger people, and people have different amounts of it that they need. So there's going to be natural differences. Does not anyone have any questions or comments or anything on this topic that they wanted to share?
Yeah, it's a tough one. I mean, sex is, you know, relevant. I think my concern from like even having the conversation is like, and like setting a date and stuff is it puts more pressure on it, and maybe it's even harder for the one that doesn't want to have sex to you know, make it fun.
Great point. I love how you brought up the frequency and it being scheduled in. So this is, you know, counterintuitive to most people, but they notice that in happy relationships that last, people usually schedule sex, and it's a huge thing that keeps that healthy thing going. And it doesn't have to be like, oh, we have to have it the same way every time. It's just a good way to stay on track with staying consistent, and there's always ways to make it fun, and that's definitely not the only time you have to do it. But scheduling it in really helps you prioritize it in your relationship and make it happen. You know, with all things that are important to us, we schedule it in. You know, if we didn't schedule work in, who knows how often we would show up. Or, you know, we put times, you know, volleyball, we play it at a certain time and we make sure it happens, it's on our calendar. If even with friends, we usually make plans and make it happen. You know, spontaneousness can always happen, that's always the option, but scheduling it in really helps break that. And another thing that they found in science is that the more you have sex, the more you feel like it. So if you've gone through a long time of not having sex, that feeling can kind of go away. So a very positive thing of feeling like wanting to have more sex is actually, the more frequently you have it, the more you feel like it. So those things go hand in hand, which also isn't very counterintuitive. It isn't common sense for us to think like that. So that's another key point. So I appreciate you
Yeah,
bringing that
that's
up.
great. No, that's
Yeah.
I think it's super counterintuitive to the way, like, you know, social brain works. So yeah, that's great to hear.
Yeah, awesome. Awesome. Happy to hear that. This is a great time. I'll open it up to the floor for anyone to ask any questions, make any comments before we wrap up for today. This is a space. I'm going to stay silent and give you guys the floor if anyone wants to say anything.
just thank you for having these spaces. It's very unique, and yeah, I enjoy it. So thank you.
I appreciate you. I appreciate you. Thank you, everyone. So that wraps up today. So whenever you have your next argument, and we always have arguments, that's something we're not going to be able to avoid. Just remember who got upset first and try and solve that before you jump to the next one. And that should hopefully help you resolve it much quicker. All right, guys, wish you an amazing week ahead full of love. And we'll see you guys next week with more questions and more skills to learn. Bye, everyone.
Yes, I'm not available to speak with us. With you.
Yeah, go for it.
Sorry about that. And next time, inshallah.
No. If you want to speak, this is a great time to speak. Go for it.
No, I come to this room because for education, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not speaking English very well.
I appreciate you letting me know. Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, okay, yes.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Take care, everyone. And I really appreciate you all being here. Have a lovely week, everyone. Bye.